Well, welcome to Simply Felicity once again. I am really happy to be joined by somebody that I have grown to admire on Facebook. She is another bold voice for God online. And it is always helpful when you are also a bold person to have other people that resonate with you and that understand what that all comes with when we speak the truth out loud. So I am excited to welcome with me Erica Day. Erica, it's great to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So cool. So we started working together recently when you put out sort of a call online, which I wasn't sure was a joke or what. But you said something like maybe I need a life coach. What did you say?
Oh, I said something about needing a life coach to yell at me so I can get things done.
Something like that, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and I love reaching out to people, but sometimes like you never know if they're joking or if it's just the right time or whatever. But it really was a really good time for you to go ahead and reach out. Um, and hey guys, the fact of the matter is even though we're very bold online and we do what we do, that doesn't mean we have it all together, right? And I personally believe very strongly in life coaching. I mean, I have a coach. Sometimes I bring that up to my clients and I let them know because I have a coach because it keeps me in integrity with coaching. And it's kind of like how you would want if you go to church, you kind of want your pastor to have some kind of oversight. Like it's important because honestly it's fairly easy to get a God complex even if you're not really given to it. But the fact is, and I know Erica knows about this because she is a real genius in we all have our little genius areas, and she is able to be out there about it. And what ends up happening is you hear you're right a lot when you're
Definitely.
sort of in your genius zone. You're like, you're right, you're right. Well, somebody keeps telling you all day you're right, like you need someone to keep you in check.
Right.
And so I think it's a really good thing. I love to just sort of promote that, not just for myself, but just to let people know because before I really knew about life coaching, I didn't know that most successful people have coaches. I did not know that. Most people that earn six figures or more have have had at one time or currently have a coach. The higher you go up income wise, and I know you do not only measure success by wealth, but I'm just telling you this statistic. The higher you go up on that, you go into the millions. Oftentimes they have multiple coaches, and as we can see by the state of the world today, with some of the people that have money, some of these coaches are not coaching you to do great things. But the point remains that they get someone from the outside giving them perspective that is sort of neutral. Like if Erica or any client said to me, you know what, I think I'm just going to move to Fiji and just leave all this and like their friends and family would be like, what, you crazy, you can't go to Fiji, da, da, da. And as a coach I'd be like, well, let's talk about that, you know and by doing that, what you're able to do is get things out of your head, and
Mhm.
which can kind of nag at you, like, Fiji might not be really the best idea, but if you just let it circle, they just keep circling around in your mind without actually really examining it, you can begin to feel put upon. Like, why can't I do what I want to do? Other people are doing what they want to do. Why can't I do it? So it's really important to begin to really objectively begin to explore these dreams. So how would you describe, Erica, what was on your mind and heart, what you wanted to develop when you came to start getting coaching?
Well, I initially wanted to write a book for blended families, talking about the problems they might face before they actually get into the situation.
Something
Um,
you know quite a bit about.
right. My husband and I have been married for 11 years. Um, Long story short, he was my first boyfriend long, long time ago. And we met up again, got married. and really just like, oh, we love each other, the kids love each other, we'll be fine. And we have had some, ups and downs, but the kids are grown, everybody's alive and happy and thriving. So I thought that I could shed some light on some of the things that blended families might face, because I don't think people really warn you about that stuff. Or a lot of times, not in a realistic way. Like, I'm going to talk to you like me and you were sitting across from each other at the table. So my initial plan was to write a book about it. And it's evolved, and I will still write it, but it's not my primary focus at the moment.
Right. And that is another powerful thing about getting that objective, like, look at it, but also really beginning to be accountable for pursuing it. Because
Hmm.
sometimes it just looms really large in our mind as the thing we need to do. And not only that, we begin to beat ourselves up for not doing it
That's
when
exactly
it,
where I was.
which then it turns out that's actually not what we need to be doing right now. You would never know it until you began to pursue it. And the metaphor I have heard that I love to use with that is that you can't steer a parked car.
Mm,
And so we're asking God to begin to move and give us direction when we won't actually move.
right.
But we want the whole plan nicely laid out in our head, and that requires zero faith. So you already know God's not going to be involved in that, because without faith, it's impossible to please Him. So what He's going to do is put you in a more impossible situation and then
Woo,
begin to direct you.
woo.
So there you go. So that's exactly what's been happening with Miss Erica. So we
Yeah,
started pursuing that. You were sort of hitting your marks on writing the first few times. One cool thing we stumbled upon was a whole new eating plan and regimen
yes,
for you. Because it was like, well, you're also in this space where everything's got to change.
yes. I
Everything
turned
needs
50
fresh.
this year, and I swear I'm looking at everything in my life, except for my husband and my kids. Everything must change
Everything must change. Erica's
because
not
I'm
putting up with
tired.
it. She is not going to stare down 60 the same way she's staring down 50,
Not
period.
at all.
Everything
Not at
has to be different according to Miss Erica, and I love it. So, as you were like kind of getting some movement and ground, you're like, you know what? I'm changing this too.
Yes.
And you've begun to feel better. And you actually got a client off of it. Tell me about
Oh my
that.
gosh. There's a lady that went to my church, and she sent me a message like, "Will you coach me on this eating plan?" I'm like, "Coach, what are you talking about?" Because I'm willing to help her for free. I love her anyway. So she was like, "I'll pay you." I said, "I don't even know what figure to come up with," and so she kept bugging me. I said, "Okay, $25 a month." That woman sent me $100 and was like, "Now, tell me what I need to do." So I told her, that was almost a month ago. She texted me yesterday. She went to the doctor. She has lost 16 pounds.
Whoa.
Hmm.
Hip, hip, hooray. That is fantastic. You definitely have. I mean, if she's your friend, maybe she knows you online. You have a coaching personality. Like anybody would look at you and think, now she could get me in line.
I think I was born a mama. I really think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've always fought against it. I'm like, why can't I just be one of the crew of friends? But I end up being the mama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it comes with great responsibility. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want all that.
Right. Right. But we end up just accepting who we are.
That's
I'm
right.
really glad that you consented to allow her to pay you, because what I didn't know when I started coaching is it really helps the person take it
Yes.
more seriously
Yes. And she
when
takes
they pay
she
for it.
yeah, she's serious. She messages me at least every other day. And she
Awesome.
tells me what she's doing, tells me what she has problems with. She's very easy. I don't really have to ask her a whole lot. But she needed someone she could be accountable to.
Yes, absolutely. What I like to say about accountability is it helps us remember that our goals don't only matter to us.
Yeah.
So it can seem like that. And some things are sort of obvious that it would have an effect on other people. But
Hmm.
when it comes to weight loss, we begin to think it really only has to do with us. And
Yep.
that's just not the case. If you feel better, you act better, I mean, it affects how you treat people. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just one basic thing. Of course, it can affect how long you're around. It can affect how active you're able to be with children and grandchildren and things like that. And so those are all the things that we choose to kind of put out of our mind when we say, well, I just don't feel like working out today, or I don't feel like, sticking to the plan today. We think it's about us, and it's really not. When you
Nope.
hold yourself accountable, you immediately have in mind, well, now I'm also going to disappoint so and so, and
Definitely.
am I going to waste their time? And if you
Right.
put some dollars in, am I going to waste my money now?
Exactly.
So it really, really helps to put in some supports and say, okay, this is important to me. This is important to my world. Like I really need to get myself going. And
Right.
we've been touching base on that, but that's something that once you seem to started kickstarting, it just kind of kept rolling. You must have just been ready to
I
start.
that listen, I would never have put that post up if I wasn't ready. I was not joking. If I'm joking, you're gonna see a smiley face or something.
Yeah, okay, okay,
I
okay.
was
So
not joking. I'm tired of my life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not tired of my husband or nothing like that. But I know that I'm not living up to my full potential, and it needs to change. There's much
yeah.
more to me than going to work every day and sitting in my lazy boy at night.
Right, right. And a job that you don't particularly, it doesn't
It
light your
pays the
world.
bills, but it's not fulfilling in any way.
Right. Right, exactly. And you have a lot more in you than that. So
Right.
that began to lead you to um this desire to, and not just desire, because part of you don't want to do it, but this mandate from God to open your mouth, right? And begin to speak out
Yeah.
some things. So that's kind of the next phase of where that's going. So tell us about what your plans are and what you're planning on starting.
I am planning on starting a podcast. Initially, it was just for the blended family, but I feel like I'm not going to be able to do more than one podcast. So it's going to just be, my phrase is foolishness. So it's probably going to be the Fighting Foolishness podcast. And I'm going to begin with the foolishness that we cause in our own lives. And
Nice.
so that's going to be the blended family part because I brought all that on myself.
I love that. I love that. And but like you said, I mean, you brought that on yourself, but it is for a lack of information. You did go
Yes.
looking to
No, I
see
did
it,
not.
what books, what resources, is there a blended family coach? You didn't see that,
I never saw it. And I still don't see it really.
right?
If I
I
do, they're like they're really branded people who, you know, talking about this recipe, that recipe, or talking about stuff that's not necessarily for us.
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about it from my point of view and be relatable.
I know people in this space, but I honestly I don't know any black people doing it at all.
Right.
And sometimes that relatability is really helpful.
Mhm.
You're dealing with sensitive subjects here, and
Right.
you're going to have people on all kinds of the spectrum. You're going to have people that are like, "Hey, we love each other. Marriage is great, but wow, like we're really struggling with,
Yes.
some of these dynamics." All the
Yeah.
way to people that maybe didn't come to you quite soon enough, and now they're really questioning whether they're right for each other because of the parenting differences. And so you may end up having that whole spectrum of
Right.
conversations.
Listen, I can relate. There's times I looked at my husband like, who are you and why are we living here together?
Those parenting differences can really kind of cut
Yes,
to the
we're very
heart,
different.
like just
Yeah.
different approaches to how to parent.
Right.
Stuff we don't necessarily, conversations we don't necessarily have.
You don't have that when you're all in love and trying to get married. You're not talking about this is what I think. Or if you do, you're talking about it on a surface level and you appear to agree until
Yeah.
the rubber meets the road.
I mean, do you really think that people have a good analysis of how they parent anyway to be able to tell you the truth? I mean, I'm not really sure how self-aware people are. I think we're
I
just
don't think
in here doing it. And
right,
like, but if you ask me, like, how does my parenting differ than that?
right. I don't think we do. I'm just the kind of person I evaluate myself before I
Me too.
evaluate other people. And so, and my son was 10 years old when we got married. And when I was pregnant with him, I really thought about the kind of parent I wanted to be. It wasn't just, I'm pregnant and let's have a kid. And, So by the time he was 10, I was pretty much like, okay, this is the kind of guy, this is the kind of man I want my son to be. What do I have to do to ensure that he's the kind of person I want him to be? Not necessarily every decision he makes, but his general character. And I want to make sure he was a man and not a little boy in a man's body, that kind of stuff. And so the Lord was like, oh, do you? Well, here, I'll just give you all stepsons. That's what I'll do.
What a sense of humor he has. So what tell us a couple of things that you wish you had known going in that you think would have made it easier.
I wish I had known that you need to talk to the kids.
Hmm.
Like you can't just be like, this is my new partner, and we're going to get married and all that stuff. You need to talk to the kids and find out what they're feeling and thinking. Not saying let them derail your marriage, but let them speak. Let them know what's going to be expected in your household, which means you have to talk to your partner about it before you even talk to your kids.
Right.
You can't just, oh, we're all going to live together and everything's going to be fine. You have to communicate with those kids.
Hmm.
Now I did do that after the fact, but I didn't really discuss it with him and have us present a unified front. I'm the more talkative one of the bunch. He'll just sit there and agree if we've talked about it already, you know.
Right.
But I'm the one who is the vocal one. And so sometimes um, the kid whose step parent you are needs to hear that from their parent,
Hmm.
not just
Right.
the new person, you know,
Sure, because that's gonna
yeah,
seem like she's just coming in and
and
yeah, right.
changing everything. Right, right.
That's very
So, and I wish I would have known how children try to disrupt your marriage.
good. Hmm.
I was genuinely shocked. Like, really? Is that what y'all doing?
And where
And
do you
then,
think that came from? Just being
well,
uncertain or, you know,
no, I had initially there were three stepsons. The oldest one was used to taking care of everything, being the parent because my husband worked a lot to support them.
okay.
So he was always in charge. And my husband's not, you're not going, he's not really discussing anything with his kids. He's like, that's my wife. You're going to treat her right and do what she says. And he was used to being in charge of everybody. So he thought that he was going to be in charge of my son and that he was going to do what he wanted. And he was used to arguing with his father and just being able to win because he is real quick with it.
Mm,
But I'm quicker. So he'd give me A, B, and C, and I'd give him D through Z. And he'd be mad because he couldn't argue.
right.
Or if he tried to boss my son around, my son, he's my son. He's not taking that. But he would come and say, Mom, da, da, da. And then we would both get on the older one. Like, please act like you're older and stop messing with him. Because it was
Mhm.
just him trying to um, assert his authority.
Sure.
And we had to let him know you have none. And I'm sure that was hard for him. And he also has ADHD as well. So that was a whole new thing.
Wow.
And there was also some jealousy mixed up in there. But, you know, I'll talk about that later. But I had to, that was the biggest thing. And he influenced one of the other stepsons to act up and tell tales and, you know,
Yeah.
so when he was no longer around because he moved away with his mother, the household was much smoother.
Mm. Hmm. Okay, so that was one of the things. And what was another technique that helped turn around any of the difficulties that you were seeing?
I learned a technique called the family table.
Mm.
And what we would do is instead of arguing with this kid and this kid, we would all sit down. Everybody got a chance to speak. You didn't interrupt anybody. You could discuss everything. And parents wasn't going to get mad at you or, you know, nothing like that. And so we did that. And the oldest one was saying he wasn't used to so much structure at his mother's house. Well, I worked in a place at the time that dealt with families and kids with issues, and I sought advice from those therapists. And they said what ADHD kids need the most is structure. They fight it, but they need structure.
Hmm.
And so my house is very structured because it had to be. There's too many people here, you know. And so he didn't like that there was structure. He didn't like that he couldn't dismantle that structure. He didn't like that his dad was like, "What did she say? Well, then do that." Like there was no way out for him to misbehave. And if he
Right.
did, his dad would crack down on him. And so I knew that was difficult for him. And I wanted them all to be able to speak, you know. And so he did admit that. And he was a little bit better after we did that. And we did it a couple times, but the issue still remained because he was still going, from our house to his mom's and that kind of stuff. And he probably
Right.
had issues that needed to be dealt with too. But he was my favorite.
Wow. That's really
I
cool. Like
shouldn't have said that.
all those challenges, it ends up getting in your heart
Yeah.
to where it causes a bond. How's your relationship with him now?
He doesn't, I mean, if he's on the phone with his dad, he'll say hi.
Okay.
Um, if he comes to visit, which is rare because he lives in Virginia now, but if he comes to visit and I'm home, I mean, we're fine. There's
That-
no animosity, but he's not seeking to be my buddy.
Yeah, I got
He's
it.
not. He's not like the other two who call me mom.
I see. I see. Very good. So yeah, so guys, like you're really gonna want to follow this journey, and as you know, I like bringing you my clients that are willing to share sort of the process. I just think that I mean, what Erica sees in herself, which is very important, you have to see it in yourself first, and you have to be your biggest believer and biggest cheerleader. But I see it in her too, and so I know what's going to happen in her life. And I want you to kind of see it from the beginning of the journey because otherwise, I think it just feels really inaccessible from
Hmm.
where you are. If you're not, if you're where she, is right now and where she was before she sent that post, if you're just like, man, I don't want to keep living this way. I don't want to hit my next milestone birthday in this place that I'm in right now, just understand it's really accessible for you to move forward one step at a time. So, Erica, tell our audience how do you have a lot of life happens. Your husband deals with a chronic illness or illnesses.
Hmm.
You've had health challenges. So life really happens for you. Um,
Yes.
Also, you don't drive. I think that's like very interesting too, because there's just the reason I bring it up is just because it's amazing the excuses that people tell themselves are relevant
Hmm.
to why they can't move forward. And you really push past, all of those. And I know it's more you don't drive because you really have not had to,
That's
but
basically it.
you push past. So tell us what do you do when life happens?
I just keep moving. Like I have a very strong faith in God, and whatever happens to me, the Bible says all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and who are called according to His purpose. And so, whatever happens to me, I know that ultimately God is sovereign, and whatever happens to me, He has allowed it or He has ordained it. And so, my job is to trust Him and follow what He says and not be weak, as
Okay,
in, don't give up.
absolutely. I notice like sometimes you don't like it, but your time in between not liking it and picking yourself back up and moving is like you just shorten that thing.
I do, because I'm like, I can't sit here and wallow in it. That will just make me depressed.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't like this. Give me a moment. Might be a day, might be two. Then I'm like, okay, what do I have to do to get past this?
Yeah.
Because literally in my family, I'm the one everybody counts on. I can't wallow in anything.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that to brag that I'm the strong Black woman, but I am. But I do realize how I feel inside. It's not always strength that I'm feeling. It's
right.
just I have to move forward regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. And that moving forward before was just like for them to keep the family together and do
Yes.
what you had to do because of that. But now you're prioritizing yourself and your own
Finally.
goals.
Yes.
Finally.
Because it seemed
Finally.
like every time I had a goal, something else would happen. Like my husband's health has been declining since 2012. Every year, something has happened. It's gotten worse. And it always seemed like maybe he'd go in the hospital for a little bit, he'd come home, like, okay, woosah, I can get started on this. Nope. As soon as I did that, something else happened.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I would allow myself to be like, okay, let me put this to the side so I can deal with this. But I'm tired of that. And so actually the pandemic has helped because he goes in the hospital. I'm the only one that can go see him, but I work until 5:30 every day, and I'm not at my job, which is closer to the hospital than my home.
Mm,
So I'm not getting on a bus at 5:30 at night before daylight savings time happened. I'm not getting up, going to the hospital and stay there until 8 or 9 o'clock, and then come home, go to bed, and do it all over again. I did that for years.
mm, mm.
And so I talked to him. He's so used to being in the hospital. He doesn't really need me to sit there with him. So I talk to him every day, more than once a day, but I don't have to physically be there. I don't have to run myself ragged. Um, and that has greatly helped.
Yes. I mean, 'cause those are hours.
That's
Eh,
I would work until 3:30, 4:30, whatever. It took me 20 minutes to get to the hospital. I stayed there until 8 or 9 o'clock.
wow. Wow. Yep. So, yeah, it's just fantastic. Not only do you continue to move forward and you've progressed from, okay, the book is going to happen, but now, it's time to focus on the podcast. You've gotten some things, you've gotten your iPad and certain things to get it all set up and be ready
Yes,
to do it. And then also, so because right now we're facing an eye surgery, right? Or two
yes,
eye surgeries that are going to happen pretty
yes.
soon. So that has slowed down the podcast. So now you've taken up singing.
I've always,
Another goal.
I've always been a singer since I was 3 years old. You don't get to have a voice, be the pastor's granddaughter, and not have to sing.
Right, 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 right.
So I'm so old that when I was 3, you didn't take the microphone off the stand, so I had to stand on the pew to reach the microphone.
Which I bet was so cute.
Right. And they had me singing solos. Like my mom didn't sit there with me and say, "You 3 years old, you can handle it. You know this song."
Wow.
And so I would stand there and sing my song, and I've always sung. It's just part of who I am. And with this pandemic, church is not open. I don't sing as much as I used to, and I felt like my voice wasn't what it used to be, which I don't appreciate because, like I said, it's part of who I am.
Yes.
So, given that I have this iPad, it's not just for podcasts. I can record myself singing
That's
and
right.
work on my voice and do vocal exercises and things like that, which is another thing that fulfills me as well.
Mm.
So I've been picking songs, and Friday when I don't have to work, I'll be recording something. I'm not sure which one it'll be.
Woohoo. Awesome. Well, I am asking for a request that you send it. I
I will
did.
definitely send it to you first.
Good, good. Thank you. I want to hear it. So, just so you guys understand the process, like when our first few sessions, um, well, the first session, I just assigned her to write a list of, what are all these things we're changing? And that's Proverbs 29:18 or actually Habakkuk 2:2, that you write the
Yeah,
vision and you make it plain. Proverbs 29:18 says, for lack of vision, people perish.
mhm,
So putting those two scriptures together, a written vision is very important because it just can help when you get it out of your head, get it down as a concrete thing that this is what I plan on doing. And you begin to see yourself doing those things. And so, the next couple of weeks, it'd be like, oh, you didn't mention that, write it down. And now it's, kind of becoming a living list, right?
yeah,
That you're always
yeah,
making sure you're saying, okay, what is it that I want to change? And all of these suppressed dreams and desires, they're all coming up. A lot of us have things that shifted during the shutdown. And so
yeah,
we need to sort of reevaluate and see, man, some things fell away that, man, I don't really need to be doing those things anymore. But
yeah,
then there are some things. I know for me, it was dancing. I would go up every week, in our little aisle and be able to, praise dance and everything like that. And God got on me like, oh, were you dancing for the people or were you dancing for me? Because you always
well,
said you were dancing for me, but now you ain't dancing.
right,
So what's going on with that? And
yeah,
so I've had to do the same thing, is just make sure I reincorporate that into my life. And it's such a wonderful thing. And I do think that this has been a powerful time for people's spirituality to become more internal than external.
yes, definitely. You got to
And
work on
both of
yourself.
us,
You by yourself in lockdown, you got to do something.
Yeah,
and it can't be eating snacks and watching Netflix all day. And
that takes a toll.
it doesn't make you feel good.
No, it certainly doesn't. And what a beautiful invitation to really go inside, examine what you believe.
Right.
Both of us made shifts on our house of worship. I mean, again,
Mhm.
everything's changing, right? But there are just things you get into, a little bit of a rut.
Yeah,
And so it was not a bad shakedown, I must
it
say.
wasn't. What it did was help. It helped me at least look at what was really important. And also, what does it say? Get up from the table when you're not being served. Does this
Mhm.
serve me?
Yeah.
And there were some things that didn't, so gotta go.
Well, all the talk about essential workers, but I think a lot of us really began to have the conversation on what is essential.
Definitely. Yes.
That became sort of first and foremost. And so
Right.
I'm very excited that you are making what is essential to Erica come to the surface. I just got this essentials with Erica. That could be a
Hey,
product line. We're just gonna play it out your whole empire. Um,
okay. I'll have to
but
write that down.
yes, yes. But yeah, I'm very excited to see that happen for you because you build up a certain persona online, people think a certain way, and that's not what's really important, but what's important is that we don't feel disappointed with ourselves.
Exactly. Because I don't really set out to create a persona. I just set out to say what I think. Like when you see me post, it's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people just gravitated towards that. So I guess being me is good.
Authenticity is the name of the game online. People that are trying to hide this and that, I don't know. I don't think it's going to serve you, because people want to know who you really are.
Right.
But the beautiful thing is that you were humble enough to let all the sides out and to say, hey, I'm also unhappy with some areas in my life. Like, I'm not just hollering at the wind about this person, this person, this person.
Right.
When you talk about women and the kind of craziness and things they do and stuff like that, it's also that they're unhappy, right?
Exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
real
It's not,
point.
yeah, it's not to point fingers and say you're a bad woman. It's because, like you said, people don't think deeply enough. And so I say, especially in the Black community, women are taught to keep a man at all costs, even at a cost to harming yourself. And I don't like that. My mother didn't raise me like that. I praise the Lord that my mother is strong and independent, and she doesn't fall for that foolishness. And she taught me the same thing.
Hmm.
And so I'm not saying I never made a mistake with a guy or I never, let something stupid happen, but I'm not wallowing in it. That's not the way I live my life. And what I'm seeing is a lot of women, they're consistently being hurt, they're consistently being used and gaslighted by men. And I'm not, no, I'm calling it out because nobody will talk about it.
Yeah,
It's like,
and they don't know why they're unhappy, and
right,
so you are helping to point out. And I just love the integrity that you live in to say, listen, I'm trying to help you. I am also helping me. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like,
definitely.
I'm not just, gonna be making some type of big following off of pointing out your unhappiness. Like,
No,
I am in a process of self-improvement as well. And
right.
so we can all grow together. And I, feel the same way. I like to be authentic about the things that I'm going through and everything like that so that people can see. Um, so people can see the journey. So thank you for sharing your journey with us today, spending some time with us. It's really been awesome and it's very exciting to sort of be at a bit of a starting line with you. And it's just going to be a tremendous year for you, I know. So
Thank you for inviting me. And
you're,
now that I've done this, I really got to do something, huh?
I, I'm
More
just trying to
accountability.
heighten the accountability. Exactly. So that also means you have to come back after the podcast starts, and then we'll be letting everyone know when and where to catch that. So you've got all my viewers cheering you on, as well as your audience and me as well. So bless you, Erica Day. And you do have a website. Is it up? Is there?
Girl, no. I'm
Okay.
just this whole vision thing, like you're a blur right now. I can see like I can see you, but nothing is crystal clear in detail. So once I
Gotcha.
get these surgeries done and I can see, then I'll really hop on the website and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Well,
I
she
can do the
already has her
podcast without,
.com. She's ready
huh?
to go. You, I
I'm
was
ready.
saying you already have your .com. You're ready to
Yes,
go.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Just gotta be able to see it. I'm tired of sitting at the computer like I'm an old lady, so I'll just wait until the surgeries are over.
Well, Gary, you're looking cute today. Don't nobody know you can't see him. Just know what we see is cute.
Thank you
that's
very
the,
much.
that's
Thank
the
you very
important
much.
thing.
I
Awesome. And
pride
we will look.
myself on being cute. So
There you go. There you go. So we'll look forward to seeing you on Simply Felicity again. Bless you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.